Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast where we talk about what it really takes to be healthy and stay healthy in this modern, fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Simms, your holistic wellness coach, and today I am blessed to be sharing the screen with Angelica, who not only is a cancer survivor, but is very, very passionate about helping women live their healthiest and best life in a way that fits into the life that they want to live. And so, Angelica, I am so grateful that you showed up to chat with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for the invitation. And I think your mission is so powerful, important in the world these days.
Oh, thank you so much. And what our besties listening to this podcast episode don't know is that both you and I got an opportunity to practice our flexibility and adaptability today. You know, we had a hard time getting on Zoom. It didn't match up. You were way in the waiting room. I didn't see you. And we were trying to rearrange it. And I think that for some people, and I know a previous version of myself, that would have flustered me and would have put me in a bad mood, and or even just that sense of oh, my time is important, blah blah blah, and in that growth of being flexible and adaptable and understanding while still knowing where our calendars were in the day to know if this was still going to work out for us recording today or if we need to reschedule. I think that's one of those tools in our tool belt that we develop over time to live a healthy and centered life. And so,
yeah, I love that. And I feel so similar to you. The previous version of myself would have got so upset by something so small. And that's when you realize that the resilience that you have been building and the growth and the work that you've been doing on yourself is working, right? Because when you're faced with something, you react in a completely different way, and you're like, wow, the previous version of myself would have scrapped the whole day, oh my God, this is terrible.
Oh my God, it's over.
Yeah.
I might as well just jump off this cliff, go bite everyone's head off, drown myself in donuts and hot chocolate or
Drink
something.
a bottle of wine.
Because, right, and I share that out loud, that behind the scenes, pull the curtain back with our besties listening, because I think it's important. I think that those little moments that could ruffle our day are the things that are leading you to make different choices with your food and to have a different relationship with your partner or kids, because we haven't practiced flexibility and adaptability while also knowing what's in our control and where our boundaries are. And so I just wanted to let them peep into that it's not always perfect, and it's how we roll with the punches that really set us up for a solid day. And so before we get too far into conversation, Angelica, will you share with our besties who you are, where you live, and what makes you you? Where would we find you on a Saturday, even when I talk about what makes you you?
Yeah. So my name is Angelica Alen, and I am actually from Brazil, but I live in Australia now. After living in 6 different countries, I settled for the sunniest place again, which I love. I live in Brisbane. And when I was 38 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer, which was a huge shock to me and to everybody around me, including the doctors, because it wasn't like there was any signs around, genetic or even major signs on my symptoms before that diagnosis. So I had an emergency surgery. And after that, I had to have 12 sessions of chemotherapy. And I remember that first meeting with my oncologist. He said to me, look, Angelica, you've got 70% chance of survival if you complete the 12 sessions of chemo. And, you're probably not going to feel very well, people kind of, see how you get on, you might not be able to do much. And I left his little office and I thought, screw this, I'm not going to be that person. There is no way I'm going to be that person. And that's when I decided that I was going to build the healthiest body I have ever had. And, I always talk about, there is one thing in making a decision is kind of that first step. But I think what people struggle the most is the follow through.
Yes.
And that decision, of course, hit me hard when after my first session of chemotherapy, I couldn't even get out of bed for 5 days. And I'm like, how am I going to do this?
How am
Like
I
I
gonna
have,
be the healthiest self if I can't even get
yeah,
out of bed?
I need another 11 of those. And, like how am I going to do this? And,
Say you were when you were diagnosed, Angelica?
I was here.
Or
How old?
how old did you
38.
say?
I was 38 years old.
38.
Yeah. Yeah. So, very young, even the doctors are like, oh my God, you're so young, like there is no family history. And so I started like really reading books and I started like devouring books around nutrition, around healing, and I started changing my diet. I started exercising, meditating, yoga, you name it. And little by little, I started getting stronger in each session, and I started getting having less bad days, days in bed, and more good days. And I was able to finish 12 sessions of chemotherapy feeling stronger than I started. And it's
Wow.
something that I'm hugely proud of, and that really shows the power of our bodies. I'm not unique and I'm not special. And since then, I'm now 44 and I am at the healthiest place in my life as well. And I think, my message would always be like, as a woman, we are raised, and it's really funny when I say this because I left Brazil when I was 21 years old. I had so much anger inside me, feeling like I don't belong in this a culture where it's kind of surrounded by chauvinists, expecting women to be so selfless and just to follow a path that you get married, you have kids, and you're a good girl, and you hope for, somebody to ask you to get married. And then your husband cheat on you and like, oh, like that kind of, and I left Brazil because I thought, I can't do this. But yet I found that I lived in Spain, in Belgium, in England, in New Zealand, and I live now in Australia. That everywhere I went, women was still putting themselves last.
I was
There
about
was,
to ask you if that was something that you saw to be a theme everywhere you lived, or if it was specific because, like, I live in this United States and that we're still working over that. And I feel like for us, like, or at least in my universe, in my world, like the pendulum swung all the way to like so me. No one's gonna rock me. I'm an independent woman. Like I can do everything myself to like really finding this like middle ground of like how to put myself first while also still having support and community and expecting things of others in a positive way because we're not meant to do life alone kind of way, you know what I mean? And so I was
totally
really
agree.
curious. I was curious
Yeah, I,
if
I
it's
I
everywhere.
saw I saw this theme definitely everywhere. Um, but I think that you're right. Like there is, in first world countries, I would say there is a lot of women that have gone all the way. And I
I
actually
will
was
never be a doormat again. And
yeah,
now you like are so rigid and so hard to be around. Like,
yeah. I feel sorry like I feel that they are missing out. Like I'm married to an absolutely amazing man, and I've been married for 21 years, and I wouldn't be what I am
congratulations.
today. Yeah, and I love him and I adore him, and I couldn't imagine my life without him. And I feel that if women are so rigid that they can't live, find themselves somebody to be with, I think that's sad because we're not meant to live alone,
Yeah.
whether that's a man or woman or whatever it is. But I think that that's definitely, as a society, we haven't really found that, kind of middle ground yet. And there is this kind of fight against, and I think we need to embrace who we are as women. I love being a mom and a wife and doing things for my husband, doing things for my kids, but that does not mean that I put myself last like I used to.
Yes. And you don't have to run yourself ragged being all the things. It's supposed to be complementary and flowing. And women are very we're creative. Like we create life. We
Yeah,
are so like we create things out of almost nothing.
yeah,
And so we
yeah.
are
And I
meant to
think,
ebb and flow and complement. That's the word I was going for. Finding a world that complements us and that we complement in return to make things better.
Yeah, and I think, look, there is so many issues and so many things we can talk about that. There is still like a lot of domestic violence here, even in Australia still, which is it's crazy to think. I never thought that that was going to exist in a first world country, right? Like, but yet it's here. It's a massive problem. So I think that you know, this change in the world that we want to see needs to start with us. And for me, a big wake up call was the cancer because, there was this moment when my daughter, I've got a daughter, she's 10 years old and she was 4 at the time. And when I was diagnosed, and she came to see me in the hospital after the emergency surgery, and was the first time I was going to see my kids, after the surgery, after knowing that I had cancer. And I was like, hold yourself together, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So she came in, and I was really holding myself together. She looked at me and said, "Mommy, what is this water in your eyes?" And I realized that my daughter had never seen me cry, and she was 4. And I thought, oh my God, what kind of BS is that? Like how I'm raising her, like not to feel her feelings, not to allow herself to be vulnerable. This is the model that I am showing her,
Just like
right?
teaching her how to process her feelings, but yet she doesn't get to see me process mine.
And for me, that was a big wake up call. I need to change as a person
Mm.
if I want to model a different behavior to my kids. And I've got a son as well. And I think, um, like, again, I just
How old
wanted
is
to
your
model.
son?
He's 12.
Oh, 12 and 10. How cute.
Yeah, and I think that they both benefit of, they are watching us, right? They're watching my husband, they're not watching me, they're watching how we interact with each other, they're watching how we love each other, right? Like they're watching how we respect each other, they're watching how we look after ourselves. So for me, how we deal with our emotions. So for me, it was a big motivator. Like I want to change as a person so I can model a different behavior to my kids. So I break this generational trauma that I'm passing on to my children, right? Which caused the cancer.
Yeah. And I can hear a whisper in the back of my head. So I know there's someone listening right now that's going, we're not supposed to share everything with our children. And I just wanted to pause on that for a second. Showing your kids how to process their emotions and express themselves and verbalize themselves isn't, as an adult, just word vomiting all of your stuff on them. It's age appropriate content of teaching them, like using the words that are appropriate for them, that we're going through something and how we're processing that, so that they can learn as they're growing in that age appropriate range, so that they don't grow up to be someone who's like, no, moms don't show emotions, they just have to handle it, they have to sacrifice, I never saw my mom do anything for herself. Like, that's what being a mom is, it's putting everyone else first. And it's just modeling the way in that age appropriate way, and being
Yeah.
conscious of what level of that conversation you bring them in on.
For sure. Like we explained to them, we were very honest. Now, mom is very sick, and for the time it's going to be, she's going to spend a lot of time in bed, and they saw me, going from like go, 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 doing everything to all of a sudden being this person that was, in bed quite a lot. Um, but in our journey, as I grounded myself in my practices, of like exercising, changing my diet, meditating, and sitting with myself, journaling, sitting with my fears, I grounded myself so I felt safe and secure, even though I was going through kind of like the most moments in my life, fearful moments in my life. They felt safe and secure because
I
I
love
was
that. I love
grounded.
that. I was just about to ask you, how did you manage figuring out, like, holding space for being scared and processing and grieving and the worry and all that stuff, and being true to that without instilling more fear or projecting that into your children? And it sounds like you said, like, that grounding each and every day of, I'm assuming, like, what you're grateful for, what is in front of you, what you have control over. What
Yes,
was
what
really
definitely what you
that
have control. Yeah, definitely. I think I spent, at the beginning like 2 weeks literally howling every day, like going to bed with my husband in my husband's arm, thinking like I just want to survive to see my kids grow up. And there were pretty dark days. And then I remember going to church, and the pastor said, "Why don't you?" Because he saw I was sick because I had a PICC line on my arm, and he said, "Why don't you come and have a chat with me?" And when I had a chat with him, I said to him like, "Oh my God, I've got cancer and I've got 2 kids and I have to survive for them. I can't die." Da, da, da. And I was like bawling out and crying. And he looked at me in the eyes and said, "Angelica, what do you think is going to happen if you die?" And when somebody asks you a question, they snap you out of the state that you're in. And I had to answer the question, right? So I kind of started thinking about it. And I started thinking about my kids going to school, my kids going to my funeral, going to school without me, my husband telling them that I died, my kids going to, like their parties, their birthdays, their weddings, everything. And I just realized, I was like, well, nothing's going to happen. They're just going to have to get on with life. And I know for some people that could have been quite a harsh thing to hear, but for me it was the right thing I needed to hear at the time, because I just thought, why am I so worried about dying? Like, I don't even know when nobody knows when we're gonna die, but we are gonna die.
You know what just popped up for me as you were sharing that that fear we have of like dying because maybe we were diagnosed with cancer or something. It's the grieving process of all the experiences we're going to miss out on. Well, that hit. It's the
Yeah,
things that we won't be there to experience.
yeah,
And I wonder if it's more about us than it is about them at the end of the day.
for sure,
Do-
for sure.
Is is that what you came, that conclusion you came to in that? Was that like I'm making this more about me and what I'm missing out on than actually, or was it
I think
really
the
more like
conclusion I came
I don't
out,
want my kids not to have a mom?
yeah, I think for me it was just like this weight lifted off my shoulders, and I thought, why am I so worried about dying and I'm not focusing on living?
Mm.
We only have now. I mean, even during cancer, you could just go and die in a car accident, right? Like, I was listening to an integrative oncologist the other day. He's an amazing doctor. And he said, when 2 people come to see me in my office, a husband and a wife, one has cancer, the other doesn't, I don't know who's going to die first. No one knows. Only God knows. That's the reality of it, and we think we know.
That
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
you're not wrong. In common sense, I know that to be true. But you just saying, a couple comes in, one has
Yeah.
cancer, one doesn't. I don't know who's actually going to die
Yeah.
first. That just rattled my brain in a way it hasn't been shaken up in. Like, because it's true. We don't.
Yeah. But we go through life pretending we know, right? We go through life pretending, you know, the message, like before we came, you press record, you said, like, what's the intention? I want to say to the woman, you're going through life pretending you're going to be here forever, that you have time to follow your dreams, that you have time to look after yourself. But yet, right now, you're not doing it, any of those things. And the clock is ticking,
So, how
right?
did your day to day life, like after you got through the cancer and you are who you are now, like what changed about your day to day? Like, what does that look like now compared to what it was like before?
Everything. So before, I used to wake up and think, oh my God, another day. And I look at my mobile, see if there was any emails from, like work, because I was working in corporate, uh, like drag myself out of bed exhausted, have my kind of breakfast as quickly as possible, rush to the bus, get the bus, go to town, come, or sometimes I would ride my bike as well, get to work, go from one meeting to another, crazy, try to eat sugar to keep me going, and help me with the exhaustion, coffee, and then rush back home, to kind of do like the, dinner and bedtime with the kids. And just on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, drink, beers or wine or eat chocolate and cheese and salami and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Feeling of, constantly exhausted, deeply unhappy, grumpy, um, and just drained, mentally drained. And I would say there was like this feeling of like, I can't keep going like this, right?
That like I'm drowning. Can the hamster wheel please slow down long enough for me to like get my bearings?
Yeah, but then in the same time thinking like, oh, but that's how everybody lives. So I have to just accept that, right? So just get on with it, shut up and get on with it, right? And now, so today I woke up at 5 o'clock. I did my meditation. I did yoga. I jumped in the pool for my cold plunge. I had a shower. And, when we connected was 6 o'clock, I'm dressed. I do this every day. And my husband and I drink a coffee together. So by the time the kids wake up, we have already done all of that. We've already looked after ourselves. I've already filled my cup. Then I can do breakfast with them, drop them at school, come back, and I work on my, I have my own business. I work on my business. I pick them up from school, and then we do a little bit of the afternoon stuff, and then, I do a little bit more work, and then we do dinner. Then I go to bed every day at 9 o'clock. I wake up full of energy. So it's a completely different. It's like chalk and cheese, it's like I never thought it was going to be possible to live like I live now.
Yeah. You know, there were two things that popped. One of them was, man, mortality motivation is a real thing. Because we hear a lot of people, they have that like car accident that they almost died in, or they survived cancer. There's like this life or death moment in their life. And then all of a sudden, everything that they were fighting against before, it's just like, I don't know if tomorrow's guaranteed. Like, I'm changing my life today. And that they call it mortality motivation. And I
Yeah.
see that being a very real thing, something I haven't experienced, and I'm grateful I haven't. And then at the same time, there's a piece of me who's like, man, I almost wish I had that. Like, it's almost like a superpower that other people have that I don't have access to. And what a
Yeah.
shitty thing to like think about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to the other day there was like an audio on Instagram and I did a video with the images, from when I had the cancer to now. And was like, you have 75 years. So midlife, it's not 50. Midlife is 35, 36. So that's when I had my cancer, right? Like, so I think what the issue these days is that we have cushioned ourselves with constantly seeking for comfort. And there is so many things that we can attach ourselves to, like food, like social media, Netflix, TV, like alcohol. They're all legal things, right? Let's not even talk about the illegal thing like drugs and, porn or whatever it is, right? Like they're all legal things that it's at our fingerprint, like fingertips. And we're like, we can just do that and cushion ourselves around of this like comfort life whilst we are in true like deeply unhappy.
yep,
But then the thought of change is like, this is gonna be too hard, so I'm just gonna stay what I am
yep.
because this is just so much easier because I'll have time to do that later, when the kids grow up, or when when this period of my life finishes, when this whilst what we don't realize is there is no guarantees in life.
No. And a lot of times we'll get stuck because it's like, the change of our habits to become the new person, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, we've never really done it before, and we haven't been successful long term with it, and so it's messy. And while we're miserable, it's a known messy, it doesn't take as much energy or thought, and we know what to expect in our misery, and so we stay
Yeah.
there. And there's this, where's my board, because I really love this. It gave me a visual not that long ago where it said that, if you start a race and you get halfway and you decide that it's hard, and you decide, I can't get to the finish line, I'm just going to go back, you ended up traveling the same distance as you would have had you kept going, except for you didn't get to the finish line to get the medal or the reward of all of the work you did. And so
Yeah.
like just keep going, because the journey, even when it's like hard and lonely, is worth the reward on the other end. Like, why go back to the thing that sucks so bad that you worked so hard to get halfway away from, just to
Yeah.
travel that same distance to go back? And when I saw that visual, I was just like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
yes, but how often do we do that? We get halfway to something and then we travel the distance back to start all over
Yeah.
again. And we just stay in that cycle of
Yeah.
sabotage.
I think what people don't realize is that we are a collection of our habits, right? I remember that when I started changing, I mean, I binge drink for 15 years. I was addicted to sugar. I was addicted to stress. I was addicted to anger. Like what people don't realize is that everything we do in the action, but also in the thinking and the feeling is a habit.
Yep.
So we are trying to undo a habits of a lifetime, right? Like it's not, and of course it's like riding a bike. If I told you that riding a bike in a correct way was going backwards, you'll be like, but I can't do that because I've learned that it's going forward. But I also think within that, people don't even know what it is like to feel good. So
It's
that
true.
mirage of like the final, like I say, you get to the hard point, but you're still not feeling, and you're thinking like, but you know what? I'm still not feeling like amazing and incredible. They don't realize, what it is like to really feel healthy anymore. I mean, 70% of people have a chronic disease these days, like in America and Australia, it's the same problem, right? Like it's insane these days, right? We have all the tools, everything is free on internet, look for it, like everything. And yet we're only getting sicker and sicker,
It's so
right?
true. And a lot of times you don't actually recognize how that you feel bad until you feel better. And then you go
Yeah,
back to old coping mechanisms and patterns that you
exactly.
had. And all of a sudden you're like, I lived like this for 10 years and I didn't know I felt like crap. Like,
Yeah,
that's depressing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
I
true
mean,
because it was a slow, gradual thing you didn't recognize. It's just the way it was. It's just aging is hard. It's
yeah.
just life has beaten me up. And that's why I feel this way. When, like you said, it's the choices that we were making sometimes that are causing us to feel so miserable in our own bodies and lives.
And I interviewed once an oncologist, and I was talking to him like it's crazy that like my body encapsulated the cancer inside my bowel, and it got to the point it was a stage 3B, so it had spread to the lymph nodes. But how clever is that? That the body did everything it could to protect my whole body, from the actual tumor. And what happens is our bodies are so resilient that it can take all of this abuse for years and years on end, and it protects us in so many different ways, right? And people, like especially people when they're going through this journey of losing weight, they hate their bodies, and they just talk to their bodies in such like a destructive way, right? And they don't realize how much their body are actually compensating. And there is, of course, this is beautiful, but also what we don't realize is by the time you find out, that's it, it's stage 3 back cancer, is a heart attack, is type 2. It comes, it's not that it comes so quickly, is that the body is so resilient. We don't realize that, you are literally on a path to disease, to death, like
Yeah,
I
it's
was.
like our bodies are so smart, and like they're throwing up red flags all over the place. We're ignoring them and we're
Yeah.
plowing through them and driving over them and being like, I'll worry about that later. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, then all of a sudden we're like, this came out of nowhere. When in reality, like the last 10
Yeah.
years of your life, your body was trying to tell you, hey, pay attention to me. And we didn't.
Exactly. Well, and I think, going back to the habits, what I wanted to say is that, um, and it's been explained, like if you know the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, like it's all about habits, breaking the habit of being yourself. It is in our brain, like the neural pathways. If you think about it, like every time, I get angry, what do? I go and drink alcohol. You make this little path in your brain, and then your body gets addicted to that because, wants to numb the emotion, and you go down that path, for 16 years, so you need to make a new pathway. And of course, that's going to take
That
time.
autopilot.
Yes.
Go into
And we're
autopilot.
wired for that, right? Naturally, our bodies are, and our minds are constantly looking for what it is the easiest path, what it is the easiest way. Because they don't, we can't be conscious at 100% of our time. So 95% of our time, we're doing things unconsciously. So it's going to take some effort and energy at the beginning until, like, when people sometimes they look at me like, oh my God, you must be in so much suffering because you eat so healthily, you go to bed at 9 o'clock,
Isn't that so
you exercise
crazy?
every day.
Isn't
Your
it
life sounds
crazy?
like
Like, oh, you look energetic and vibrant and your life is thriving. That must be so hard for you. And it's like, actually, no, it's not, because I don't like the way I feel when I do those things that you're so convinced are what living looks like.
yeah, yeah. And also it takes you going against the grain because
Yeah.
society is telling you, oh, eating moderation, drinking moderation, watch social media moderation, whilst we all know that human beings haven't got a really good record in knowing what moderation is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the state that we are
Well, and
in.
the whole reason that conversation even exists, and I'm not saying this is being to be said from a place of love, no guilt, no shame. Like, everyone gets to choose their path. What I have learned to be true in my life experience is that the times where people are constantly trying to justify to me, like,
Yeah.
moderation and what's acceptable and what is easy, go with the flow, are really just society trying to justify their own actions, because by me holding myself to a different standard and wanting a different outcome for myself makes them uncomfortable with the choices they've made.
Yeah, for
And that's
sure.
such an individual journey. Like, what is okay for me 3 years ago would never fly today. And I hope what my is okay for me today is not
Yeah.
the same things that are okay for me 4 or 5 years from now. I hope I grow and learn and optimize and do things differently.
And you probably have experience, especially with women, working with women that, they will tell you like, yeah, but if I do that, if I want to eat more veggies, for example, like a small example, my husband doesn't want to do that.
And
Or if I want to, if I want to stop drinking alcohol, I know. So
and
then it's like, okay, so basically you can see that, or like, oh, what will my friends, think if I go there and I don't want to eat their food, or like, so then it's not about the weight, right? It's not about the food. It is about, are you prepared to live a life that is not true to yourself and compromise and compromise and compromise and get to a point where you yourself are unhealthy, unhappy, with in your body and, and how you're feeling. And I think
I'm a
that
million
I have
percent agree
seen
with
this
you.
big time.
I so agree with you. And you know what I have learned, that when I share with my friends who make different choices within me, they don't, like, oh, like, why aren't you eating that? Oh, it upsets my stomach. It doesn't really agree with me. No one actually fights back with me. They're like,
No.
oh, I didn't know that that upsets your stomach. I'll make sure that something's available for you the next time we do a cookout. I'm really sorry about that. It's when we try to word vomit and force our own knowing onto
Yeah.
other people and trying to make it true for them to justify ourselves that people get that resistance. But when we just say, like, I've learned that that just doesn't work for me. Thank you, but I'm good. No one has any opinions about it.
Yeah.
Or at least
Yeah.
not in front of you. They might have conversations about it with other friends later, but it's not so much talking about us as much as it is just discussing where they land on a subject.
I think now what I always tell my clients is that, people say like, oh, but why can't I work it out, this whole being healthy thing by myself? Being healthy these days, it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm gonna put my hand up and say that. There is unhealthy food everywhere you go. There is unhealthy temptation everywhere. Every party you go, every friend's house you go, Like I have very like few friends now, like okay, because we also came to Australia. But when I told my family that I was going to change my diet, I eat a plant-based diet because after everything that I've read, I feel that that's the best for me, given that I've had, cancer. My husband eats a plant-based diet, and my kids, they also eat 95%. If they want to eat meat, I'll buy meat for them from time to time.
So
Um,
are you 100% plant based?
100% plant-based,
I
yeah.
would say, the reason I was asking is like I would say that eat a plant-based diet. It's mostly plant-based, but I also eat animal products as well, like chickens and fishes and things. But I still consider that plant-based, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
So no meat.
So yeah, I don't eat any animal product anymore. But I remember the first time I went to the supermarket because I had self-quarantine during chemo. I was at home because I was getting like coughs and colds, and the doctor said, look, don't go anywhere. So I literally stayed at home for 4 months. And reading about nutrition, being in control of everything that my husband would go out and we would just cook at home. And I remember the first time I went to the supermarket and I thought, whoa, like how are you supposed to get out of here with a healthy trolley? Like that's just insane. Like it's just like sugar, 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 sugar,
It's
sugar.
intention.
Process,
You
process,
have to
process,
be
process.
aware and you have to be intentional and you have to really
Yeah,
know what works for you and what doesn't. At least that's what I have found. And it's not so much I like I can't. It's like I eat the way that I want to feel. And I know
yeah,
that when I eat certain foods, I don't like the way I feel, so they're not for me. And so it doesn't matter if they're available or not. Like they just aren't for me. I don't I don't smoke pot. So if it was available, I'm still not smoking it. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like and I feel the same way with food.
But I think what people and I, I would say like if you, for example, if you want to lose weight, if you have, a pantry full of chocolate and biscuits, and if you're hungry, you're gonna reach out to those things.
1,000,000%.
100%, and that's where I think that being healthy is not that easy these days, because everywhere you go, you have to prepare yourself, right? If you go to a friend's house, they're gonna have a feast of things that potentially are not very good for you. So you need to, I don't know, bring your own food or whatever it is that you need to do. But the world that we live, and I say that to my kids all the time. My son the other day said, oh mom, I wish you could have like a stash of like sugary stuff that we could just eat, sometimes. And I said, yeah, but the problem is sugar is addictive. That is, it's proven, research is proven, right? So nobody can control their sugar consumption because sugar is addictive. So if you have a little stash there, today you eat a little piece, tomorrow you eat two, the day after you eat three, right? And you keep increasing that. But if you don't have any of those and you have apples and oranges or fruit or banana, whatever it is, and I'm not saying that you need to eat 10 apples and 10 bananas, but
I
if you
would have
have
stomach cramps if I ate 10 apples in one sitting.
exactly, like but but if you had an apple instead, or dates or whatever it is, then you would reach out to that. You wouldn't reach out to the biscuit. What people don't know is that during cancer treatment these days is that more people put on weight than lose weight. People think like, oh, you lose weight during cancer treatment because they give you so much steroids to suppress your immune system. A lot of people these days are putting a lot of weight. Um, if you start losing weight, it's almost like you're kind of in final stages of cancer. So, but people don't talk about that, the doctors
No,
or
because I would
at
not
the
have made that
beginning of it.
assumption. I think
Yeah.
about cancer patients losing a lot of weight because they can't keep anything down. And
No, no, no. The medication that they give you to the anti-nausea is pretty strong. And I remember talking to a lady who had just gone through the same treatment as me. And she said to me, I was at very early, like session 3 of my treatment. She said, Angelica, I did the same treatment with 10 other girls. And we all put on between 12 and 25 kgs during treatment. And everybody's left with like, gluten-free and, issues, gastroenteritis. And I just thought, whoa, 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 whoa. I can't finish this treatment with 25 kilos more. I can't, because this is a big issue. Cancer recurrence is it's real. I need to keep healthy and stay healthy, and when you are carrying excess
Can't give
weight,
up. Now's not the time to just throw my hands in the air and say it is what it is. Like,
exactly, and that's what people say to
is
you, oh,
that
you've
what
got
happens
cancer,
when
just eat
people
the
are
cakes.
is that what really happens when people are going through chemo? Like everything, that mentality of like everything else is
Yeah,
so hard, I might as well just live while I can and
I
living
think it's
in the
very, yeah.
unhealthy rather than living for the life.
Yeah, I think that I've been in a cancer conference here in Brisbane, and there was a room full of physiotherapists, exercise physiologists, nutritionists, and Cancer Council Australia was there. And the discussion was like, exercise is definitely proven to help cancer patients to have a better outcome, in the 5-year survival rate. But during chemo, they need to exercise during chemo. And they spent the whole time discussing, yeah, but we're not sure what exercise is the best, how long, and like the whole time, right? And
The
there was this
one that
lady
makes you happy that you can show up for. That's when people are like, what's the best exercise to do? The one that
that.
you'll show up for every day. What's the best
Exactly.
time of day to exercise? The time that
I-
works best for you.
exactly.
It's
So, I started with a walk around the block, like because I was so weak, and I kind of felt like this is the society we live these days, right? The oncologists don't want to know because it's not their thing. Like they're doing other things. And then the exercise physiologists want to make absolutely sure that they prescribe the right amount and the right type of exercise, whatever, right? So I think that the lady next to me, like the cancer council lady, she said, "Oh, when people call me and they say like, oh, and I feel so bad, I just tell them, oh, just eat the cakes." And I'm like, you can't say that, like sugar creates inflammation, cancer is inflammation. Like this is serious, like we
this
should
is
be saying,
literally life or death for
yeah,
someone.
yeah, yeah. And I
Wow.
think that we live in a society that, especially in America, I know because I worked with so many American clients, is that, doctors are more scared to being sued than to tell people the right thing, which is so sad, right?
Yeah, and
And,
I don't know about you, but I would much rather know the truth and what I actually need to do so that I can make my own decisions based off of that, make my choices of what I will or won't follow. But like, give me the whole picture, tell me the truth, give me the right answers so that I can make the best decisions for myself. Like,
can you imagine like living in a world where people get diagnosed with cancer and the doctors tell them, so you've got cancer? And now you have to change your diet because cancer is a lifestyle disease, and you have to stop eating, you know, processed food, the sugary drinks.
yeah, but
You
if
have to
that's
stop
part of,
drinking alcohol.
yeah,
People don't want
but
to.
if I
The
have
truth is,
cancer,
like,
isn't my question, how do I beat this? How do I live? Isn't that the question I would be asking if I got diagnosed? Or am I, don't know. Obviously, you lived it. Like,
yeah,
that's
I
the
think
question.
I think it's there is so much negativity around this word to start with, and there is so much victimhood, because we are very far away from finding the cure. That's for sure. Like I was lucky. There is so many women being diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer. By the time they find out is already game over, right? Because the symptoms are just like iron deficiency, and they think it's because of the period, and then they don't get checked with the colonoscopy, and by the time they find out, it's just game over. There is so much victimhood. Like when I started my chemotherapy treatment, they brought people in to kind of like in an information session to tell people they were from different ages, different cancers, what to expect during chemo. And they said, look, you're gonna feel sick most likely. But you're gonna get very strong anti-nausea tablets, and hopefully that's gonna be, help you not to kind of vomit, like, which does help very much. But if you are going to eat out, please choose McDonald's. because it's fresh. It's cooked there and fresh. Don't go to delis or places like that. Now, I've worked as a
I wonder
volunteer
if that's true in the US or if that is an international thing, because our rules here are a lot different. I feel like I bet you the quality of your fast food is probably better than the quality of my fast food.
yeah, potentially, yeah. But in saying that, what I'm trying to say here is that our the conventional system has catered for what people want to hear. People don't want to hear, by the way, hi guys, you've got cancer, you've got to cook from scratch, you've got to exercise every day, you've got to sleep 8 hours a day, you've got to quit alcohol. Nobody wants to hear that. And that's the issue. Like I said, are people not thinking like, I will do everything I can. I sat at, if most people sat at the reception like room, that's not even at the back when you receive the chemo, just the reception, people would just go like, whoa, like I don't want to come here ever again.
I can't even imagine the
Yeah, you
energy
see people
and
coming back after 2 weeks, and I've seen, for example, like a lady, she came back, she was like like almost dead in a wheelchair. She came in talking, 2 weeks later she came in a wheelchair. Like it's not for the faint-hearted. But in saying that, like 98% of people don't want to hear you've got cancer as a lifestyle disease, because then it's like, oh, is it my fault? It's not about being your fault. It's about like, what are you gonna do
it's
now
about
about it?
what we're going to do next. And that's the
Yeah,
life piece. That's actually where I want us to wrap things up on, Angelica, because I think that's the piece that we all need. It doesn't matter where you've been, what brought you to this moment. Like, we all have coping mechanisms and habits and patterns that we developed to survive some of the
yeah,
hardest times of our lives. But here you are now. Take inventory of what's working and what actually isn't, and where are you going from here? Like,
yeah.
what is your path forward? And so with everything you've experienced and lived through and the way you see the world now, what would be, like, if you had to like bullet point three things for people to tackle right now and to make a
Yeah.
plan about, like, what would be your top three for them to walk away and take action on today?
So I would say you need to start with your physical health. An exhausted body can't tackle any mental or emotional patterns and habits and destructive things that it's going on in your head. And the easiest thing to do would be just to move your body. Go for a 5 minutes walk. Don't think about what exercise. I need new shoes. I need new pants. No, just go in your pajamas. Like, I don't
Yes.
care. Walk on spot, like. So I would say moving your body is definitely like absolutely key for physical and mental health. You instantly start feeling better. I actually didn't say, but I've written a book called Radical Ownership, Taking Your Power Back Through Habits in Body and Mind. Is at the back there actually. Um, so I would say start with your physical body, physical health. Once your body starts feeling better, then mentally you will feel better, right? Most people are living in exhaustion, overwhelm, and stress. You're just in survival mode all over it. You can't tackle anything. So I'll say exercise. You start with 5 minutes, walking on the spot or walking around the block, whatever it is, in your pajamas, not pajamas. I don't care. The second thing I would say, which is completely underrated, and I would say is sleep for 8 hours a day. Okay. Again, we have an epidemic of people that can't sleep, insomnia, sleeping issues, sleep apnea, whatever it is. We need to rest for 8 hours a day. We need to sleep so we can start getting to that deep sleep, so we can start getting to the repair mode in our bodies. Right. So I would say that is again, and again, I'm just saying this because that's easily done, right? How do you go about that? Go to bed every day at the same time and wake up at the same time and keep doing that on repeat until your body will just get used to it and crave that.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
For the
And I
people
think
who are
that,
like, I'm a night owl, I can't go to bed early.
I
Start
was a night owl.
yourself to bed. You set an alarm to wind down and you put yourself to bed, and eventually you will train your body to go to sleep when you go to bed.
Yeah, for sure. And I was a night owl, and I never thought I would wake up at 5 o'clock full of energy, and I do. So if I did it, you can do it too. And I would say the third thing is um, getting more vegetables in your in your diet. I thought I ate healthy before cancer, and I would say most of my friends said, Angelica, like, I can't believe you got cancer, you ate so healthily. But I think the amount of animal product that is available everywhere you go, by the time you eat all of that, you don't have any space left for the variety of vegetables that you need, right? And I think that's where the biggest problem in Western society is. We are not eating the variety we need. And I think if you did those three things, you'll feel instantly better, because you're going to be resting every day. You're going to be moving your body. Hopefully you're going to be pooping every day, because if you're not pooping every day, you're in big trouble. And so, and within that, you start getting to this cycle of feeling more in control, better mentally and emotionally as well.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for sharing your life and your story and what you've learned through trial and error with us today. I think that it's really important because, like, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a business owner, you're a human, and all of those things are all the same things that the rest of us are juggling too. And so it's very real, it's very relatable. And I just thank you for being you today. I appreciate that. And so, guys, like as Angelica said, it's move your body, get the sleep you think that you only deserve on vacation, make every day a vacation, and eat your veggies. Like, you can handle those three things. Figure out how to make it work. And oh, Angelica, how do people connect with you?
So I am on Instagram, Transform with Angelica, on Facebook, Angelica Alen. I'm on YouTube as well, Angelica Alen, TikTok, in all places. And I've got a website as well, angelicaalen.com.
Will you show your
Alen,
book
just
for us
Alen.
again? Will you hold your book
Yes, and
up
that's my
again?
book.
How do we, is that on Amazon by chance?
Amazon, yeah.
Perfect.
Radical ownership, yeah, taking your power back through habits in body and mind. And this is the message. Like when I thought about my title, I didn't even look at any other titles. I had a vision for my book, and the vision was, wherever you are at, I want to empower people to know that there is so much they can do. And there is only one way to do it, and it's by taking radical ownership.
Boom. And with that, that is Two Humans Talking. I will see you guys next week. Thanks, Angelica. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and actionable as I did. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start living a life where your health, your relationships, and your career work together without the burnout, then it's time that you join the Modern Women's Society. Inside, I'll walk you through my life GPS system, a proven blueprint to help you have it all while thriving. You'll gain tools, coaching, and the kind of clarity that brings big dreams to life without the stress, overwhelm, guilt, and shame that the modern woman is used to. We're going to create a life where you feel energized and excited to wake up every day and fulfilled when you put your head on the pillow. Click the link below to learn more and join countless other women who are redefining success on their terms. Because the life you've dreamed about is closer than you think. I'll see you on the inside.